Bible smack. Alright, so I just wanted to kind of give a little bit of a reaction and also a discussion of the Donald Trump victory and the New World Order and things like that. I think that, some people have said that this was a miracle that this happened, that Donald Trump got elected. In some ways, but also it was kind of naturally coming. And what happens is that those who are on the political and cultural left are very selfish and self-centered. And in their selfishness and self-centeredness, they ignore people who are godly. They ignore their ideas, and eventually they ignore their existence. One of the big problems, the weakness of the left, is that it makes up lies and then becomes so narcissistic that they believe the stupid, and I mean utterly stupid lies that they come off with. And basically, we do see a reaction. Lately there's been huge amounts of protests. Some of them are very violent. You ever heard the thing, they had like John Lennon singing, all we are saying is give peace a chance, At this point, I think the message back to them is all that we are saying is give prison a chance. Because that's literally what's going to happen. You're not protesting when you smash somebody's car, or when you come with a gun and shoot people, all right, or just shoot at people, all right. That is rioting. That is criminal, and basically you deserve what you get if you get arrested for that stuff. That's crime. Crime pays. But basically, I watched a lot of these videos of the SJWs, which means social justice warrior, which is this is like politically correct. It's really a cultural communism, the latest form of communism. And there's a good documentary out called Agenda, Grinding America Down, and then they got a sequel to it, the Agenda 2 DVD, but it basically shows how the Communist Party has infiltrated various parts of American society. That the the Communist Party USA was actually not, even though it's not so much a party as much as a think tank. Okay, and it's been working for ultimately the communists came into America around I believe it was the 1920s, and they've had such a huge influence on America over the last couple of generations. And so when we look at this situation, we're just looking at these little snippets, but we're not seeing the big decade by decade process where this is happening. But basically the social justice warriors, these people, these are all brainwashed people. Evolution is a lie that was fomented to start the secular New World Order back in the 1800s. And essentially, you had the Bavarian Illuminati and all that kind of stuff. But essentially some of these people, kind of going back with the Jesuit order. The Jesuit order, was a spy network, one of the most elite of its kind. The CIA and the KGB really learned off of the Jesuits more than anything else. But, essentially what's going on here is that they wanted to take back Europe to the Holy Roman Empire and take back control of the Roman Empire, and eventually, of course, the rest of the world too. But when the Reformation happened, countries became independent. They realized that, this is a relationship between you and God, that you can get God's word directly into your heart, and then you can worship God directly. You didn't need the intermediaries of the Catholic Church. And they went out and they got more and more evil, and they were assassinating people in many countries. They got kicked out about 83 of them. One that was famous was King James of England. They tried to assassinate him by digging a tunnel underneath the castle, and underneath the king's throne they put up a whole bunch of dynamite, but the British guards found it, and they got rid of Guy Fawkes, who was one of the ringleaders. They executed him. So basically this kind of went around, and even America was one of the few Protestant nations, and it was founded as a Protestant nation. But the difference is that it was a free country, not necessarily a church-state country, unlike some of the other Reformed countries. The idea that was put forth by the Baptists, and admittedly the Quakers were into it too, but this idea of religious liberty really shifted the nation in a totally different direction, because you cannot save people with their flesh. And the law of God deals with the flesh. Now, the law is a way of stopping evil. And I think that what will happen in our country is that the law is going to be used to stop evil. And that's going to be a good thing, but it's not going to create good. Okay? The church is an instrument of goodness. It brings in the Spirit, and the Spirit brings us life. And so that's what we have to do. We have to have a revival, or it's over, okay? Trump or no, or, whoever your favorite guy is, okay? Throw in your 20 favorite politicians, and it won't amount to anything, okay? Make up some video game with a super politician. It still won't work, because man is fallen and sinful, and this world is ready to die, okay? So, basically, in this situation, the Jesuits, a lot of them ended up getting kicked out in the 1700s. The Jesuit order got kicked out of the Catholic Church. And at that time, a lot of them, like Jesuit Adam Weishaupt, who ended up starting the Bavarian Illuminati, basically they decided to go, and get back at the church. And so by going and getting back at the church, what they did was they set up a new secular world order. Okay? They had a quick democracy idea where basically you have like a secular libertarianism and democracy, and then that would serve as a bridge to socialism. And then we had the ideas of Marxism. And you had to have a worldview to kind of push this forward. So, in the 1700s, they had the naturalistic philosophy to get God out of philosophy. Then they progressed, and they had an idea of science, and they said, I'll tell you what, how about we have everything coming from nothing? They didn't start with nothing. At first they said materialism is everything, because that's the atheistic idea. It's the only thing consistent with atheism. But basically, the Darwinian theory of evolution, now there's several previous ideas of evolution, they just weren't working out, and so Darwin was the guy who had a good idea to make it make sense, at least with what they knew at that time. Most everything that he's put forth as evidence that was evidence for evolution has been utterly debunked. In many cases, a lot of the stuff was fraudulent, okay, like Piltdown Man or Haeckel's drawings, other missing links and stuff like that. I think the one that was the closest to an actual evidence was Archaeopteryx, which is kind of like a pterodactyl. Trying to think, was it a bird or was it a reptile? But it ended up being one of those instead of like the two. I believe it was a bird that had, fang-like teeth on the beak. But essentially, with all that said and done, the Darwinian theory then would build on with also psychology and ethical relativism, which really came from Friedrich Nietzsche. Nietzsche was really like the prophet, and I've spoke about this in other places, but he was really the prophet of anti-prophet atheism. And so, you had many different forms, and then you had hybrids like New Age and liberal Christianity and all that kind of stuff. But essentially, as this movement progressed, you had this whole secular world system that would take over and all the isms, okay? When Hillary Clinton came out with her basket of deplorables, okay, what she was really saying is she was using the psychology religion, okay? And I know that you can use psychology to analyze and stuff like that, but really, people have developed a religion of self-esteem and Freudianism and all this kind of stuff on the side, and then they go out and employ it because really it's trying to replace Christianity, Christian ministry, and all that kind of stuff. So basically, she was using code when she did that. The whole homosexuality movement, based on this idea of homophobia. You have an irrational fear of homosexuals. And now they'll like take your job away and take everything you have and then say, that's because you're afraid? Well, yeah, if you threaten people's lives and their livelihood and everything, isn't that promoting homophobia? But, here's the thing. It's the power of suggestion. It is the power of emotion and feelings. It is a type of hypnosis that's carried on leftist ideals and leftist value. If you are on the left, you may be on the left because you enjoy having no moral accountability. You may be on the left because you are feeling anger with bad experiences of some religious person. You may be wanting to have a socialism where you're not having to work too hard to get ahead in life. But basically all these things boil down to feeling and not a search for the truth. And Nietzsche talked about, he said there's a will to power and a will to truth, and so their goal is the will to power. A lot of them understand that you can't totally take over society with the will to power, but you can have the people who run society with the will to power, while the other people with the will to truth will be, the little lemmings and slaves and all that kind of stuff. So this is this big giant system that has come to take over. And then when we look at Donald Trump, what you're actually dealing with, I think that Donald Trump, it's hard to categorize him for a lot of people. And a lot of people really just miss the mark with him. Number one, I do agree that he's not a born-again Christian. I don't believe that he's really understood the gospel and had his heart changed. But yet, at the opposite end, I do believe that there are things that has convicted his heart, and that there are things of God and godly people which are starting to draw him. And unfortunately, he might be kind of not quite as into it thanks to the Christian Never Trump movement, and I'll talk about that in a second. But essentially, he was religiously indoctrinated with the teachings of Norman Vincent Peale and his power of positive thinking, which that's one of the reasons why he's having trouble with the whole sin forgiveness motif, because positive thinking is move forward, forget, move forward, forget, move forward. It's not really focusing on the concept of atonement and sinful nature. And, to him, I think that the idea of the sinful nature was really dealing with his idea of goals. There is no real understanding of the afterlife. It's just the goals of this life. Okay. So basically, he's been given a lot of liberal theology that's really messed with his ability to have a relationship with God. But at the opposite end, there are some things that were against the idea of, the one world government, the New World Order, the Illuminati, all these types of things, because basically the ideas that he had were opposed to those. Norman Vincent Peale, even though he's had several people under his tutelage who were really focused on, the globalism and things like that, there was a political anti-Catholic streak that he always had, which I do think helped out. I think that there was a natural bent against Catholic dominance, and the link between the Illuminati and the Roman Catholic Church are very close. They just, a couple of years ago, they just had the first Pope to have been a member of the Jesuit order. Now, I don't know, if I was a strict Catholic, I don't know if that agrees with canon law. The fact that you would excommunicate a group, and then all of a sudden that group takes over the whole Roman Catholic Church. I'm not an expert on canon law, but I think that probably would be, grounds to say that this was illegal, okay, in that religion if I was very orthodox of the Roman Catholic faith. But essentially, that empire mentality has always kind of fluctuated with this, and that's where this stuff kind of goes. So there was that. There was also the fact that, and I forget the name of the school, but basically Donald Trump was not under a globalist economic school. He was from a different school. The usual globalist economic school is the Frankfurt School, and most of your big groups kind of adhere to that. A lot of the neoconservatives and the liberal progressives and all that kind of stuff. They all kind of went along with that Frankfurt School of Economics, and then you get the Keynesian economics and all that kind of stuff where, money becomes fiat created and you're just all into debt and all that kind of stuff. I mean, it's just goofy. But the Bible says neither a borrower, neither a lender be. The Bible has strict prohibitions against usury, and which basically it's, putting out all these massive loans on people and stuff like that, taking advantage of people through the banking system. The Bible forbids it repeatedly. But basically, the things like that, I think that Trump, I don't think he's, a lot of ways, I guess I call him like a dirty Reagan. He's got a lot of similarities to Reagan in so many ways. But he is more secular. He's, Reagan had a lot more class. He wouldn't be cussing in public, I don't know what he'd be like in private, but I know that he had a lot more of that open character and better manners. But, what a lot of people don't realize is that Trump does want to do a lot of good things. And a lot of this, it is hilarious. I mean, Donald Trump is a guy who was a Democrat decades of his life. Okay. Open, everybody knew, that way. I mean, he had been a Republican back and forth sometimes, but generally, most of his life, he was Democrat. And he even, he helped out a lot of local African American groups in New York and stuff. And he helped with, he was a donor to Jesse Jackson's campaign for president. He's helped people on both sides of the political spectrum as far as to help himself. But in general, he still helped them, But basically, this guy who helped Jesse Jackson, the first black candidate for president, helped his campaign out, and also got several awards for his, helping out with the African American community. Okay, he gotten all this kind of stuff, and then you hear this guy Van Jones saying it's white lash, it's racism, rah! He's the KKK. Donald Trump was raised in New York City. All right, he is the ultimate Yankee. All right. A Southern, group like the KKK has nothing to do with him. Okay, he said, "Oh, but they said they endorsed Trump." The KKK endorsed Barack Obama in the primaries against Hillary. back in 2008. Okay, you can look that up. Okay, there's an interview with Hazard County Grand Wizard of the KKK. He was like, "I hate Hillary. We're going for Barack Obama." So there you go. Okay, but a lot of the insanity. I mean, just anything that was thrown at Trump, it could be like thrown right back. Okay, I mean, it's like, he's a racist because he's a birther. Hillary started the birther rumor, okay? And there still are a lot of legitimate questions. I mean, number one, if Barack Obama had been adopted by a guy named Soturo, and he was raised out in Indonesia, he probably needed to have had his citizenship changed. And there's a lot of records missing about his attending college and all that kind of stuff. A lot of people didn't know him there and things of that nature. So, how did he get in these big universities and he was in this rich high school? How was he a part of all that stuff when he was supposed to be poor? I mean, the high school thing, a lot of people thought that apparently he was hanging out with a lot of rich gay men. And he was getting a lot of, he'd have cocaine parties and stuff like that. And I'd heard this stuff talking to a woman who went to high school with him. But basically, let me kind of zip back to my point. I know I'm kind of rattling on here a little bit. But basically, everything that you could throw at Trump was doubled. It was almost like a rule. Like any accusation, you could find a bigger problem in the Democrat Party. And yet, basically, they have a brainwashed class of voters. And not just the voters. And I mean, I've dealt with Democrat voters. They all want to pick this one, you click on the party. So it says, okay, down ticket. That's all I have to do. I'll let the Democrat Party think for me on who to vote for, and whoever they endorse goes and gets it. And that's just all they do. They don't have to think. They're just like, click it, There is a real serious lack of education. And, watching the videos of the SJW Warriors, I mean, they just sit there and just come off with the most stupid, I mean, utterly, I don't even know if these people really know how to read, okay? I mean, it's just amazingly ignorant type of accusations, and they're like, he's gonna kill everybody, blah, 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 he's like, Donald Trump's like, I'm against the war in Iraq. I don't want to start a war with Russia. And they're like, I don't trust him with the nukes. I mean, Hillary Clinton's out there saying, we're going to destroy ISIS, but we'll never put troops on the ground to kill them. And we're also going to start a war with Russia because, I'm going to make up a conspiracy about Julian Assange being, part of the Russian government. And we need to make war with Russia. Why? Because you depleted our military? Oh, no, it's not just that you depleted our military. But it's probably just the fact that Russia is one of the few countries in this world that could, really do damage to the U.S. in a full confrontation. I mean, yeah, we're stronger, but, he's got that left hook to knock us out, and it's like, hey, let's start a war with Russia. That way everybody will forget my 150 felonies. I mean, you just, there's just a lot of amazing stuff in brainwashing. It wasn't just like the liberals versus the conservatives. The liberal Republicans, we've called them the neoconservatives and stuff, they were the majority, the vast majority of the Never Trump movement. And the whole point was just to get Donald Trump not elected. Because if he got elected, it means that the power of the liberal Republicans is no longer in charge of the GOP. Now, that's not official yet, but that's really where this is going. Now, right now, they're like, oh, peace, wine and dine. I mean, they just sat there humiliating this guy nonstop. Okay, and all these neocon guys like Michael Medved did nothing but utterly smear every time they could. Okay? And anything to do with the left, he protected, and they protected it. Okay? Right now he's sitting there, let's make peace and let's not go after Hillary. Okay. An FBI agent that Obama appointed just had to go back and say, yes, we're reopening this investigation. I decided to close it, but now we're reopening it because all this stuff, Julian Assange. And Julian Assange, is he a right winger? No, he's a left wing. He's a left wing, and they would say he's a left wing terrorist. Okay, but he's really not causing terror in America. But he's a hacker. He's a reporter and a hacker from another country. And he did this stuff to Bush about the war and what they were going to do with the troops. And the left was like, this is our hero. They were pledging their allegiance to the guy. He's a leftist. He's not a right-winger. And he took Hillary down because she just happens to be objectively evil. So, when we go back on this stuff, all right, that had to happen. And, you know, as far as the popular vote, I know that it was depressed among Democrats because there's really not a whole lot to vote for. More people voted in the state of Florida, where Trump won, than in California. Okay? I mean, California got 50 electoral votes. But it actually had less votes than Florida. Florida had like 25 electoral votes, maybe 30. And yet they had more popular votes in Florida than California had. Okay? I mean, it's almost guaranteed Trump won the popular vote, and they're out here saying the opposite. Okay? They're like, oh, the votes are replaced. I worked as an election officer in a Democrat area, and we had over 200 more than our usual precinct turnout for a general election. We had 200 more than when Obama got elected in the first place in the Democrat precinct. Okay? Don't tell me about how nobody showed up. All right? But yeah, so basically, when you look at all this stuff, I mean, it's just very obvious. Now, Donald Trump did go. He was involved with Illuminati groups. I mean, you can't really be a billionaire and not have some sort of involvement with these groups. But yeah, he went to a Jesuit high school. Now, he's 70, so 50 years, I mean, you can change your mind, okay? And as I said, a lot of the global stuff doesn't quite agree with him. Globalist economics, which is worldwide communism. Oh, here's the rich country, here's the poor country. We'll take from the rich and give it to the poor. That's communism, only bigger. You know, he went with that. Trump was against it. And he was against it on every level. And that's the reason why I was excited about his presidency. I knew, you know, okay, he's got a screw loose here and there. He's not like the greatest person on earth, but, you know, what he was advocating would make America great again. Okay? Stop stealing from the American worker through illegal immigrants. Stop stealing from the Americans by taking the corporations and shipping them overseas. And yet Hillary Clinton was a globalist and a communist and a socialist. Everything was working with her. When I talk about the Jesuits, her vice president was an open out there. I mean, he wasn't secretly a Jesuit. No, he told everybody at the debate, publicly, over and over again, that he was a Jesuit Catholic. And he worked all his life with Jesuit missionaries. I mean, it was just right there. But all these major forces, the news media, you know, if you're working to make America more conservative, we have to go after the news media and the universities. Okay, we've got to stop. All right, stop being stupid, paying your whole life for these universities that are doing nothing. Their classes are getting stupider. They're teaching you less for more money. I mean, when you get brainwashed with all these lies, that's why all these kids are just psychotic. because it's literally brainwashing, okay? There is propaganda that they are especially fed from the time of public school, but especially once they get across there. Because they're going to teach the kids, don't be a Christian. Don't believe in the Bible. Do believe in socialism. Don't ever question evolution. But never stop questioning God, especially on moral issues. This has been a brainwashing. And, we have to deal with that. We have to take it head on because we are in what I've called the soft civil war. Now, I believe it's the beginning of the end, at least as far as this version of it. Trump, it all kind of depends, though. I mean, is he going to be doing what he said he would do? If he does what he said he was going to do, it's going to be amazing. I mean, once he gets rid of all that 501c3 stuff, the church is going to be so empowered to be militant and to do away with evil. It's just going to flip. You're going to see cultures flip. And if Trump comes in there and says, no, I'm not putting up with your stuff. No, you're not burning the car. You're going to jail. Okay? No more of this, oh yeah, Black Lives Matter because we can go and raise up a hoot and beat anybody up we want to and kill cops. No, that's not going to happen. All right? And, one thing about that is that I don't think that you care about black people if you're on Black Lives Matter. You do not care about black people. Okay? Stop lying to yourself. Because you want to protect murderers and drug dealers in the black community who ruin black youth. Okay? You want to protect that. You don't want people to abide by it. You want little black kids to get raped and molested. That's what you're all about. Okay? You hate. And it's not like it's the only group. Illegal immigration, you could say the same thing. You want to let the Mexican drug cartels come over, and they'll go, and by the way, they'll kill lots of black people. Okay? But they'll also kill lots of Mexicans. Lots of Chicanos who just are citizens of the United States. There are many regular Chicanos or legal immigrants who've been shot and killed and murdered by these thugs. Yeah, there are thugs and rapists. Now, I know that there's lots of illegal immigrants who are nice and they're all about their family and they're only stealing our money and taking it back to Mexico and ruining our economy. But it's not just about them who are stealing from us. It is about the drug dealers. It is about the crime. And the same thing goes for Islam. You tell me that you care about the Muslims and the Arabic people, and yet you preserve the people. The Islamic terrorists kill more Muslims than anybody else. Okay? See, these groups of evil people, you protect the evil people, and you hurt the good. So you're hurting good Muslims. You're hurting good African Americans. You're hurting good Mexicans. Okay? And, communists are hurting good white people. But, it all is a system, okay? And all this stuff kind of goes where they can oppress, okay? But you need to pray for Donald Trump. Pray that he would really be evangelized and understand true salvation. I know he's likely to meet the Grahams at some point because every American president has met with Billy Graham. He'll have to go. Billy Graham ain't coming to the White House anymore. He's really on death's door. But he'll have to go there. They are compromised. The Grahams, Franklin Graham, all them, they're compromised. Okay, so they might even care to share the gospel with them. They just might be like, okay, here's the political things, blah, 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 blah. Okay, because they've done that. Okay, they've definitely done that. But they could evangelize them. You never know. And, there are Christians, there are ministers. Mike Huckabee, pray for him. There are some compromises that Mike Huckabee be made, but honestly, I think he's really, in so many ways, got a heart of gold, and he's done so much. He could do so much more. I wish that he could have been the primary candidate this cycle. He should have done it in 2012. Probably people came in to stop him. Okay, I don't want to know what happened at one of those smoke-filled rooms, but basically, I don't doubt that he believes the gospel. He's a pastor and stuff like that. Hopefully, he's going to have some talks with Trump. Okay, I know he was there at the victory celebration, but I know he's also not the highest, guy to be there. But anyhow, yeah, pray for that. So, that was just some of my thoughts right now. He could do good, he could do bad. If he does what he says he's going to do, he's going to do good. So we'll see y'all later.